Picture this. It's a quiet evening. You're glancing at your self-managed super fund and everything feels like it's ticking along fine. Now here's a number worth pausing on. The ATO can fine you personally $19,800 for a single breach, and your fund is legally banned from paying it back. If you didn't know that, you're in very good company. Most trustees don't. Here's the thing I want you to hear first. If this has never been on your radar, that's not a failure on your part. The ATO collected around $3.4 million in penalties from SMSF trustees in a single year. And these weren't reckless people. They were ordinary trustees who simply missed something. Today, I'll walk you through 3 calm, doable moves. Check your compliance status, verify your exposure, and lodge anything overdue. Stick with me. The first number changes how you see all of this. So here's the number that reframes everything. $19,800. That's the maximum ATO administrative penalty for a serious breach. 60 penalty units at $330 each. In force from the 7th of November 2024. BT Professional Super Guide. And here's the part most people miss. That fine doesn't come out of the fund. It comes out of your own pocket. Let me show you how to make sure it never reaches you. So you've got 3 moves to protect yourself, and none of them are hard. Check your compliance status, verify your structure and exposure, and lodge any overdue returns. Each one takes under 20 minutes, and every one of them is free. Think of it as a health check for your fund. Let's start with the first thing most trustees don't realise. Personal administrative penalties. When an SMSF breaches super law, the ATO can fine you as the trustee directly, and the fund generally can't pay or reimburse that penalty. ATO, BT Professional. That's the part that catches people. You naturally assume the fund covers everything, the way it covers accounting fees and insurance. But the law treats this one as yours, personally. So how big can it get? For the most serious common breaches, illegal lending, borrowing, or in-house asset problems, the penalty is 60 penalty units, which is $19,800 at today's $330 rate, BT Professional. Before the 7th of November 2024, that same breach was $18,780. Less serious slip-ups still land at $1,650. $3,300 or $6,600. And here's where it gets important. There's a second layer coming. This is the failure to lodge penalty on overdue SMSF annual returns. And it stacks on top of any trustee fine, BDO, Prime Financial. The ATO adds 1 penalty unit for every 28 days you're late, up to 5 units. So a single overdue return can cost your fund up to $1,650 at today's rate. It's small at first, then it isn't. And here's why letting it drift really matters. That penalty repeats for each overdue return. So a fund that stays late year after year quietly stacks thousands in avoidable cost, all before the ATO moves to anything harsher, BDO, Prime Financial. The flip side is genuinely reassuring. Lodge on time and no failure to lodge penalties accrue at all. Now let me show you the belief that trips up more trustees than any other. Here's the assumption that quietly gets people into trouble. The idea that an SMSF penalty is just a fund expense the super can absorb, like any other bill. The reality, straight from the ATO, is that these administrative penalties are generally payable by you personally, and the fund can't pay or reimburse them. ATO, BT Professional. Once you treat compliance as a personal responsibility rather than a fund cost, everything about how you run the fund gets a little sharper. So let's put both costs side by side so you can see the full picture. One serious trustee breach is $19,800 BT Professional, and one maxed out late return adds $1,650 BDO. Combined, that's $21,450 in a single bad year. And that's before any interest or tax consequences. Author's estimate from ATO settings. Let me show you what this looks like for a real person. Let's make this concrete. Meet Mark. He's 52, an electrician on $110,000 a year. He runs a 2-member SMSF with a corporate trustee holding around $620,000, and he's 13 years from retirement. He genuinely thought his fund was running perfectly. Here's what he found when he actually looked. His first discovery, what he'd have called a minor rule slip, could cost him $19,800 personally if it falls into the most serious penalty tier, BT Professional, ATO. Lending to a member, borrowing or breaking the in-house asset rules all sit in that 60-unit category, and his SMSF couldn't reimburse him a single cent of it. His second discovery sat on a completely different layer. If the fund's annual return runs overdue long enough, the ATO can add a failure to lodge penalty of up to $1,650 per return. BDO, Prime Financial. That's entirely separate from any trustee fine, a second bill arriving for the very same year of not quite getting around to it. But here's the part that stopped Mark cold. A serious breach can escalate well beyond fines. The ATO says the fund can be made non-complying and lose almost half its assets in tax, ATO. For Mark's $620,000 fund, that's not a penalty anymore. That's a hit to his retirement he'd feel for the rest of his life. Which is exactly why the checks I'm about to show you matter so much. So Mark's realistic worst case is $21,450 in a single year, $19,800 for one top-tier breach plus $1,650 for one maxed-out late return. Author's estimate from ATO penalty settings. And that's before any interest, tax, or repeat breach penalties. The good news? Every dollar of that is avoidable. And here's how you check whether you're exposed. So could this quietly apply to you? 3 simple signs. You've never actually checked your fund's compliance status with the ATO. You're not sure whether any annual returns are overdue. And you haven't looked at your loans, borrowing, or in-house assets in a while. If even one of those rings true, don't worry. The next 3 moves are built for exactly your situation. Right, 3 moves, let's do them together. You're going to check your status, verify your exposure, and lodge anything overdue, all before penalties have a chance to compound. Nothing here needs an accountant on the phone. Let's start with Move 1. Move 1, check your compliance status. Log into ATO Online Services for Business and open the SMSF section. Have a proper look at your lodgement status and watch for any overdue annual returns or active compliance notices. This is general information, not personal advice. But this one login is the single fastest way to know whether you're already exposed. Here's exactly how you do it. Log in with the fund's linked ATO access, open the SMSF section and review your lodgement status. Then note down any overdue returns or compliance notices. What good looks like? No overdue returns and no active compliance issues showing at all. If that's your screen, you can breathe. Move 2. Verify your structure and your breach exposure. Pull up the ATO's SMSF compliance guidance alongside your trust deed. Look for the restricted actions, borrowing, lending to members, or holding in-house assets. And match each one against the ATO's penalty categories so you know your real level of risk rather than guessing at it. Here's how. First, confirm whether your fund has individual or corporate trustees. Then check for any borrowing, member loans or in-house assets. Then match each one to the ATO's penalty categories. What good looks like? No prohibited transactions and your trustee decisions properly documented along the way. Move 3. Lodge any outstanding SMSF annual return through the ATO's annual return process in online services before the penalties keep quietly compounding. Start with the oldest return, then pull together the fund's financial statements and tax data so you can submit cleanly and stop that failure to lodge clock right where it is. Here's how. Identify the oldest outstanding return first. Prepare the fund's financial statements and tax data, then lodge it and keep your proof of submission. What good looks like? All returns up to date, which means no failure to lodge penalties are accruing against your fund anymore. You might be wondering why this matters right now. Look at how the penalty unit has climbed. Back in 2021, SMSF penalty examples used a unit value of $222, so breach costs were noticeably lower. On the 7th of November 2024, it lifted to $330, pushing every SMSF penalty up, including that 60-unit maximum BT Professional BDO. And right now, the ATO is actively using fines, non-complying status, and trustee disqualification. The number only tends to go one way. So always recheck the current figure before you rely on it. After you've acted, take a moment to confirm it actually worked. You should see no overdue returns in ATO online services. Check that no active compliance notices are still sitting open. And if a breach did exist, document how you fixed it and keep your proof, because tidy records are genuinely your best defence if a question ever comes up. Everything I've shared comes from the ATO, BT Professional, BDO and Prime Financial. All the links are below the video so you can check every figure for yourself, and I genuinely encourage you to, because these numbers do change over time. So if you've stayed with me this far, you now understand something most trustees never think about until it's too late: how these penalties land on you personally, and the 3 simple moves that keep you clear of them. The single best thing you can do today is log into ATO online and check your lodgement status. It takes about 20 minutes. Next, we break down the in-house asset rule, the breach that quietly costs trustees the most. If this gave you a clear next step for your fund, come along for the rest. One calm, jargon-free video a week, all about making your super work for the retirement you actually want. I'm Alex. I'll see you in the next one.